All right, folks, we're back for another episode of Let's Talk Snowboarding. And this week we have Justin Kisielewski, who has been a part of the Mountain Vibez family for quite some time, ever since one of our first charity events back at Keystone in Colorado quite a few years ago. Justin hails from Steamboat Springs right now. He is a proficient backcountry splitboarder. Been up some crazy faces. We get into everything from his most recent trip about a few weeks ago up to Golden, British Columbia, and going out to a lot of the peaks out there and riding some really gnarly lines. He also, to fund his backcountry season, he is a chief engineer on a transport ship going across the seas all over the world. And so he lives a pretty awesome life. Growing up on the East Coast, so he's really cool to have him come out west and be a part of this Mountain Vibez family. And we appreciate his time. We also want to thank all of our sponsors, Mountain Vibez, Ski Shack, Ticket Goat, Fine Brewed Cafe here in Coeur d'Alene, and also Hagedon Technologies for the awesome studio space. So let's quit messing around and let's get into it. The Justin Kisielewski episode. All right, folks, we're back with another episode of Let's Talk Snowboarding presented by Mountain Vibez. And today in the booth, we have Justin, aka lay_juice on Instagram. And honestly, dude, I didn't even ask you before we started recording, but how do you say your last name? Is it Kisielewski?
That's pretty close. It's obviously been a struggle my whole life for people to get that right. So that was like I'd say that was a top 5% pronunciation there. It's actually pronounced Kisielewski if you pronounce it
Okay.
like the Polish way, but Kisielewski is just fine. Yeah.
Yeah. So Polish. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Where in Poland? Like, where's your family from?
So my dad was born in a small town outside of Poznan, and then my mom's from Konin, another small town in kind of northwest Poland.
Cool.
But they've lived here for quite a while. My dad came here when he was about 10, and then my mom was about 20 when she came over.
Gotcha, dude. Yeah. Speaking on the mispronunciation of last names, my last name's Halvorsen, so it's a Orsen situation. But every single time I say it to somebody, they're like Orsen. You mean Erson? I'm like, no, I'm not Swedish. I'm Norwegian. So that's like the differentiation. Like, so the Swedish is Erson. Norwegian spells it Orsen. So,
Gotcha.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
I
Well,
had a
cool,
lot.
dude.
I had a lot of nicknames growing up just to shorten it. A lot of ski or like different types of variations just to make it simple
All
for people.
right, very cool, man. So what you been into today? I know you've had a couple things going on. You got a homie you need to go help out down there in Steamboat. But how's the day started, and what's it looking like out in Steamboat?
Yeah, it started chilly here. I mean, this last kind of cold front coming through, this last storm brought some cool temps. So it was like negative 15 out. Had to do a little shoveling this morning, not a ton. We got a big storm coming in this weekend, but just trying to prep for that. It's been a pretty slow morning for me. Just got a little workout in. And then, yeah, now I'm here talking to you. And then,
Yeah.
later this afternoon, I got a buddy to help out with a general contractor in town that needs a little help with something. So that'll be the rest of my day here.
Nice, nice. Kind of a down day. We've been chatting for a few days to get those taxes dialed. It's
I
tax
did
season.
I did get all my tax documents ready to go. yeah, I gotta ship back out to work. So I work on commercial ships for a living. So I'll be shipping out next month for about 3 months to go back to
Oh,
work. So I try to get all that tax stuff and all my loose ends here kind of wrapped up so I can kind of enjoy my last 3 weeks at home, enjoy the snow before I have to go back to work.
yeah, yeah. We'll dive into, your main job here in just a little bit, but you just spent about 3 weeks up in the interior British Columbia area, and had some amazing runs, some amazing zones that you hit. And how was that trip? And was that for your first time up there?
So yeah, I was up there right after Christmas. Me and my buddy took off. My buddy from Minturn. We loaded up the snowmobiles and headed up to Golden, BC. It was kind of like the home base where we started. I've actually been up there a few times before, so I kind of know the area. Um, and man, it was just all time. The snow conditions, they had a really good early season, so great base. Abbey conditions were really good. Weather windows were lining up to ski some really big lines, which was kind of unheard of. Late December, early January to ski steep couloirs. That's not something we do in Colorado. Our snowpack is very, very touchy all the way up until spring. Which
Yeah.
is so for us, it was kind of almost an eerie feeling being able to look at these lines and dig pits and not see the snow reacting like we would expect it to. It was the trip of a lifetime. I mean, I don't think we could have had better conditions, a better partner to go into the backcountry with on the same page as me, and like again, everything just really lined up to charge hard and ski some big lines.
Nice, nice. Golden. Never been there. So what's it kind of like in Golden? You got a lot of zones around you and a lot of resorts.
Yeah, so Golden's almost more of like a truck stop town. Is kind of how I refer to it. It's got a
Okay.
resort, so Kicking Horse Mountain Resort is there. Um, and we were really focused on Rogers Pass, which is just kind of in between Golden and Revelstoke. It's probably about a 45 minute ish drive, depending on the road conditions. And that's what we were focused on. We didn't do a lot of resort skiing on the trip. We were kind of just heading towards Rogers Pass to do a lot of ski touring. And again, like the conditions were so good. Golden is a great jumping off point because it's still pretty cheap there. I mean, to get an Airbnb and for the week, it was really inexpensive, and we had a great setup. Um, Golden itself does not get as much snow as like Revelstoke, so snow conditions are a little different there than they are just a couple hours down the road in Revelstoke.
Yeah.
That's something we kind of had to like consider after the first week, which is why we ended up our last 2 weeks of the trip. We shifted over to Revy just because there was better snow there, uh, a lot more snowmobiling. I mean, both have a ton of terrain, but we kind of wanted that more ski town culture, big mountain culture, which is really something that Revelstoke offers. Golden is great. It's just a little more low key town wise. And yeah, we had a few connections in Revelstoke that kind of were able to show us some backcountry zones and give us that local insight. So that was definitely something motivating to get us over towards those zones to have a little bit more local intel because it's hard. It's hard when you get into a new zone and you're jumping on snowmobiles and you're trying to read guidebooks if you're not super familiar, and even if you've been there before years ago, every year everything can look a little different or you quite don't remember it. So it's having somebody local to give you some intel is a pretty great thing.
Guys, I want to talk about a new sponsor for Let's Talk Snowboarding, which is the Ski Shack in Hayden, Idaho. Ski Shack is a local family owned and operated ski and snowboard shop located in Hayden, Idaho. They specialize in sales, rental, and repair, and they opened in 1976. That's going on 50 years up here in North Idaho. They have been offering a skiing and snowboarding to North Idaho and beyond for that much time, which is crazy. One of the oldest ski shops in the entire state. We appreciate everyone at the ski shop for supporting Let's Talk Snowboarding. So go in there as soon as possible and get yourself dialed, whether it be getting a fresh tune-up for your board or skis or grabbing some new gear, because they got all the best in outerwear and also in boots and bindings, boards and skis. So head on over to Ski Shack, located at 9437 North Government Way in Hayden, Idaho, and have some fun picking out some cool stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome. You said that you rocked the Airbnb. Were you in the Airbnbs mostly, or were you guys also doing a little bit of truck camping?
It was a little chilly, so we were in Airbnbs.
Okay.
We were glamping, yeah.
Nice.
It was good with the dollar exchange. I mean, everything was about 30% off with the U.S. dollar being so strong. And we again, you can kind of find deals on Airbnb last minute, and it was almost cheaper to stay in Airbnbs than it was any hotels. It just kind of lined up nicely for us. And like after a really long day, you kind of want a little bit of space, something to come home to, and kind of dry your gear out, and freshen up a bit and get a good night rest before you charge the next day.
Yeah, and we all know like it's like what was the situation? We're rocking they got a wood stove going on in any of your spots or hot tub,
No,
or
no.
was it bare bones in it?
We had a hot tub in Revy, which was pretty sweet. I have a hard time with the hot tubs. Like, if I get into a hot tub after a long day, man, I come inside and I'm checked out. Like, I'm gonna go right to bed. So I had to be pretty cautious with how long I sat in that thing.
Oh yeah, yeah. You almost need like the hot tub or sauna, and then the cold plunge right afterwards to make sure that you kind of pep back up and not just want to like lay on the couch and watch some Netflix or something and pass out.
Yeah, exactly. I started doing the cold plunge thing up here. My friend opened. I live up in Steamboat Springs. My friend just opened a recovery studio up here, and you can do cold plunges and sauna and red light therapy.
Yeah.
The older you get, you start to realize you got to kind of take care of your body a little bit, and I really noticed the benefits of the cold plunge and the sauna.
Yeah, it really does. I'm a little bummed right now because it's so cold up here that I do cold plunges on the regular, but mine is a pretty primitive setup. It's just a 100-gallon feeding trough that I bought, and it's just out on the back porch. But when it gets so cold, you can't even keep up, because everything just kind of like ices over every single day, and so it's just a big block of ice right now, which is a bummer. But
that's like a man's man ice plunge, man.
yeah. I'm just like I can't even get into it. I've got like try and get some of my painting buckets and fill them up with hot water and go out there see if I can melt it down. But
break that little ice layer.
Yeah, it shouldn't be too much longer before it kind of warms up a little bit. So it'd be cool, definitely.
Nice.
Dude, let's get into where you grew up. Like where are you from, and like how did you get into snowboarding? First off.
So I was born in New Jersey. I grew up there until I was about 10, and then my dad's job moved us down to Atlanta, Georgia. And then I grew up the rest of my young adult life in Georgia. I went to high school in Georgia, and then I graduated, went to the Merchant Marine Academy up in Long Island in New York. So I went to school for 4 years up there. After school, moved back down with some friends in Charleston for a little bit, and then Florida for about a year, and then I came back to Atlanta just to kind of be closer to family. And I lived like in the city for about 2 or 3 years, and it really just turned into my kind of storage unit. More than anything, I was just always traveling and always going other places. I from a young age, I didn't snowboard or ski a lot. So in New Jersey, we had like a little kind of mom and pop ski hill that, my dad would take us to once in a while. Or we'd go down to the Poconos maybe once every couple of years. That was kind of like my New Jersey ski culture. And then when we moved to Georgia, surprisingly enough, there's actually pretty decent skiing in North Carolina.
Yeah.
There's some small resorts there that are pretty fun, you know. So we would go there maybe once a year growing up, and I didn't really kind of flourish in the snowboarding until really after college when I had more freedom. I did snowboard in college a bit, but with the military school being, you know, pretty strict, we didn't have a lot of free time.
Okay.
So it was really after I graduated from school. I was working in the oil and gas industry, month on, month off, and my month off was always spent, you know, in the winter in Colorado skiing or going somewhere else to do some sort of outdoor activity. And it finally sort of pivoted enough that I'm like, why am I living in Atlanta if I'm always somewhere else? So I just kind of packed up one day and moved to Colorado, and I've been here for about 10 years now.
Did you land in Steamboat?
So I lived in Denver for a year with a buddy from college. He had an extra room, was like, hey, why don't you just come live out here until you figure it out where you want to be? And I knew I wanted to be in the mountains, but I wasn't quite sure where. And he actually had a house in Crested Butte. And he's like, hey, you can go up there anytime you want. So I spent a lot of time in Crested Butte taking him up on that offer. And eventually kind of took my time, went to a lot of different towns in Colorado, the mountain towns, and caught a feel for kind of the culture and the town and the amenities. And man, when I came to Steamboat, something was talking to me when I drove down that the pass, Rabbiteers Pass, into town. And actually, my first day here, I actually bought a home.
Nice.
Without knowing a single soul in town or anything. Something felt right, and it was probably one of the best decisions I've ever made.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always good to. So that time frame, you probably got in a little bit of a better deal than, of course, these days. So
yeah, that was when homes were actually affordable here. So
yeah, yeah, I have a friend that I worked with at a ski school at Schweitzer up here for a while. His name's Eli, but he came from Steamboat,
okay.
and he actually it's funny. He actually grew up a couple towns over from me in Ashland, Oregon, when I was growing up in Cave Junction, Oregon. And so him and I were like, oh my gosh. So we grew up in the same area and now we're here, which is really cool. But he always raved about how cool Steamboat was and the terrain and just the vibes of the town. He says that like Schweitzer is a very, very like similar feel. You know what I mean? Like kind of like big resort, big village, a lot of big terrain, a lot of really cool zones to get into, kind of like the same vibes and stuff like that. But
That's
being
cool.
at Steamboat, is it it's kind of like the cowboy type ski resort, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. There's a big Western culture here.
Yeah.
Big ranching community, cowboys, a lot of history in that aspect. And it is a more, it's not as extreme as Aspen or Crested Butte or some of like these other big resorts. We don't have really any high alpine. So the terrain is a little more mellow, but we get so much snow consistently, and the tree skiing's great. Amazing snowmobiling right in town almost. So it's got, like any mountain town, its pluses and its minuses, and it's somewhere that, like, if I was going to raise a family, this would be the kind of town if I wanted to raise a kid in the mountains. Really good community up here all year round, and that was something that was really important to me when I was looking. I didn't want to live somewhere that once the resort closes, it just dies out and no one's around. So Steamboat's almost more popular in the summer for all the summer activities than it is in the winter.
Yeah.
So really, yeah, it's a great.
Yeah, makes sense. It's kind of like been in Coeur d'Alene up here in North Idaho for a while, and that's kind of how it is here too. I mean, when we have 5 resorts within an hour or two of the town here, but it's a summer tourism town because we have the lake right here. We have a ton of lakes actually. There's up in Sandpoint where Schweitzer is. There's Lake Pend Oreille, which is a massive lake, and Coeur d'Alene is a little bit smaller, but it's really big into water sports and fishing and doing all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's summer tourism here is starting to get more and more. Like I feel like every single summer it's just like, oh my gosh, there's so many more people. There's so many more people. So many more people. So it's pretty crazy. You were talking about the snowmobile culture. You have a sled right now? What's the
I do.
sled setup?
Yeah, so I have a 2019 Skidoo 850 Summit.
Nice.
It is awesome. It's it's one of those things. I think a lot of people when they move to a ski town, they're like, "I'm going to buy a snowmobile," but it's just like for ski access to sled ski.
Yeah.
And you start getting out there, and you get out there, and you learn how to ride your snowmobile, and a lot, you start transitioning to just becoming a sled neck and just going out there and snowmobiling because
Right.
it's so fun on like a deep day. And when you know how to ride that thing and you know the zones, and it's a lot of people transition. So I love to sled ski, but man, getting out there on a deep day on the snowmobile and just ripping with your buddies is so fun. It's a cool thing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I can get that, dude. It's like, the pros, they're out there to film and stuff like that. So, the sled is kind of essential, and they're spending so much time like building booters and trying to get clips and, filming for projects and stuff. But, for more recreational people like us, my friend Ian from we were talking about earlier from Bend, uh, he's done that too. Like he used to be like, splitboard, go get some lines in, be in the backcountry. But now he's like, it's almost more fun to just take my sled out and on a deep day and just brap all
Yeah, yeah.
all day long.
It can be a lot of logistics with the snowmobile. Like taking the snowmobile out, especially if you're taking another buddy on your snowmobile, then you got two people on yours, and you're trying to get into maybe some tighter zones, and you really got to rely on your partner when you're snowmobiling that they know how to shift the weight, and then once you get into a zone, then you're transitioning to skiing, and you're getting out there pretty far. So like you really got to have a good plan in your logistics if you're going to sled ski.
Yeah.
Whereas snowmobiling, you just kind of load it up, get out there, and just as long as you're not getting stuck too often, it's normally quite an easier day.
Yeah, yeah. Do you have any friends that are rocking Polaris?
I do not. We're all Skidoo guys.
Oh, there you go. That's good. That's the right answer.
there's a lot of tension in the snowmobile. It's all playful banter, but a lot of people just like in any community talk trash on each other's brands.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like an area thing too. Like up here in Idaho, I feel like Chase Josie said it on his podcast. I was like, "Are you Polaris guy, or are you?" He's like, "Polaris all day." And I'm like, "What? Okay, all right." I was like, "I thought Ski-Doo was the one." He's like, "No, I'm from Idaho, so like everyone loves their Polarises up here." And I'm like, "That makes sense. Maybe it's like more of a terrain type thing as well."
Yeah.
Which one do you want to go with?
Yeah, and again, I think it's also like you said, maybe some Idaho guys. That's just kind of the culture there because they have better shops. Or, I mean, I actually started riding Arctic Cat like when I first started because my neighbor had an Arctic Cat, and that's all he knew, and that's all we knew. So I bought an Arctic Cat, and we kind of started our sled journey on some really old equipment, and that's we learned a lot. And it's tough riding on those older sleds. So like, once you start meeting up with guys that are on these newer, nicer sleds, you jump on my buddy's, new turbo Skidoo, and I was on my old Arctic Cat, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is what you're riding, you're almost, it opens your eyes to the light a little bit.
Yeah, sometimes I'm like, those Arctic Cats, you can get them for a steal. And if you're not like trying to really get into deep stuff, if you're just basically trail riding it, on some firmer stuff just to get out to tour, like meow meow, take the Arctic Cat out there.
Just to get started, you don't need much. Again, like you're saying, if you're riding some roads, just trying to get access to zones. I mean, that's what I did my first 4 years. Was really just using it to get out there to the better ski zones, which you really. In Steamboat, if you're skiing in the backcountry, you really need a snowmobile just because there's not a lot of access from the lot unless you're touring really far. And it's not fun touring on flat ground to get to a zone. It's a lot easier on a snowmobile. So that was a big motivator to get the snowmobiles, even that they were older and not, big mountain power sleds to get out into the better zones.
Yeah. Yeah. And are you multidisciplined in the backcountry? Do you ski and splitboard?
I just splitboard.
Okay.
I threatened for a while. I bought a pair of skis, and I was like, I'm gonna do this, and I never really chased after that. The skiing scares me a little bit with my knees, I think, and
Okay.
I actually just did switch to hard boots this year on my splitboard setup, and that is a total game changer. I wish I would have done it years ago. Just a lot more control, a lot lighter setups. If you're spending like big days in the backcountry, I think the hard boot setup is the move.
Okay.
It just makes a lot more sense. Your feet are more comfortable, uh, and yeah, just the lightness of the setup that they're making nowadays is just it's pretty amazing how far the technology's come.
Yeah. Yeah. What's your split board like? What are we rocking? What board and what bindings do you have on it?
So I'm riding a Jones Ultralight Stratos, and
Nice.
I have the Phantom binding interface with key equipment boots. Um, yeah, it's a dream setup. It's real. I look at that board every day. I go to pick it up, and it just like makes me smile. It's super light, very reliable. I haven't had like any issues with it. I will say like the boots, I had to get them punched a little bit and kind of get those tweaked in. But other than that, I mean that setup has been all time. I mean any Jones board is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
But the ultralight, like you really feel, again like when we were up in Canada, taking those big long days where you're out there for 8, 9, 10 hours on your board. Those little few grams of saving weight, really, I think you start to feel it towards the end of the day.
Josh, do you ever notice that when you buy tickets for a show, you get hit with all these hidden fees?
Yeah, for sure. I'm tired of being gouged with hidden fees.
Dude, I just discovered this, but now whenever I purchase tickets, I try to search for venues and artists that use Ticket Goat.
What's Ticket Goat?
Ticket Goat is the greatest ticketing software of all time. With Ticket Goat, promoters can expect hassle-free setup, zero obligations, and a revolutionary $1 ticketing fee for event attendees.
So we can say so long to hidden fees?
Dude, 100% zero hidden fees. With Ticket Goat, steep ticketing fees are a thing of the past. Ticket Goat's revolutionary ticketing software allows owners to create custom ticketing options, access to event reporting, and a digital QR codes for mobile ticket scanning, all with no commitments and transparent pricing.
Sick. That means event owners can keep their profits and ticket buyers can purchase tickets without being gouged.
Definitely. If you are in charge of ticket sales and want a fast and easy way to sell tickets, go to www.ticketgoat.com and join the herd today.
Sick.
Yeah. Yeah. As far as like let's talk about like your routine on a backcountry day, like in the morning. What are we waking up, coffee, stretch? What's it looking like on a backcountry day, big day?
Yeah, so I am an early riser, so I like to get up early and kind of slowly start my morning. Coffee is a must, and normally wake up, have a coffee. I'll fire up like something on YouTube to get the stoke up a little bit, some sort of motivating video, skiing, snowboarding, snowmobiling, whatever I'm getting into. Um, I'm not a huge breakfast eater. I try to have like a little oatmeal and like a banana. That's like my go-to. And I typically will like sit in the living room floor, get a light stretch in while I'm kind of, checking the Abbey forecast or snow
Yeah.
conditions. And I typically will lay everything out in my garage the night before. I don't like that last minute kind of rush in the garage to pack stuff. I feel like it's super easy to forget stuff. So I try to have everything kind of ready to go in the morning so that when I'm ready to leave the house, all I got to do is grab a couple things and toss it in the truck.
Nice. Excellent, man. Yeah, that's very cool. So what kind of stuff, like, what are some, like, if you were to, give some tidbits of advice to somebody who wants to get into the backcountry, what would you say are some of the most vital things for you to put in the pack that, of course you want your beacon, shovel, probe, but what are some things that you bring along that have helped you when you're out there that some people may have not think of?
Um, so some of the most important things, I think a radio is really important. Making sure you and your partner have a radio. That's pretty critical for, especially if you're snowmobiling or if you're getting a little out of sight of your partner. That's just a nice thing to have. A Garmin InReach, I feel like that's a must. If you're in the backcountry, having a Garmin InReach is something you really want to have around in case things go wrong or you come up on a situation where you really need search and rescue out there and you don't have cell service or something like that. That's a pretty vital piece of equipment. And then, a lot of other things you kind of procure over time what you personally might need. I bring a lot of spare like screws and little pieces for my personal setup, for my bindings and everything like that, and little tools, torque wrenches or whatever I need to tighten my setup. That's come in really handy because screws do loosen up even if you Loctite them, and having a couple spares of each screw you have on your setup, and maybe even at least a couple ski straps. Ski straps are always in need. Really, just like a Leatherman, like a big multi-tool with a knife. I bring a little kind of like bag, and I put all that stuff in there. I bring a little like a emergency blanket, like the kind you see like marathon runners have.
Yeah.
The kind of like silver. I don't know exactly what the material is, but
material.
yeah,
Yeah.
I have one of those in there. I have some fire starter. I prepare to spend the night, because it can happen. Um, Again, if you come up on somebody else, you want to have a medic pack. I bring a small medic pack with me because you never know what's going to happen out there. I've seen dogs cut with people skinning, and you have to wrap them up and get them back to the trailhead. Um, and yeah, I mean, me personally, I've never had to spend the night out there, but one of my good buddies has spent the night out multiple times. So learning from other people's experiences, you kind of say, oh, wow, that might be nice to have, in your pack. Um, but those are some of the important things. I bring like some paracord too, because
Okay.
you never know what you might need to tie up or figure,
Yeah. Yeah. Very nice. And your knowledge of like having all that stuff, was that something that you got through avalanche courses? And kind of speak on how important it is to get that knowledge, and what those courses have done for you as far as like being prepared.
Yeah, definitely. The Avi classes do help a lot. I highly recommend everybody takes as much education as you can. You learn a lot in those courses, even from just talking to other people in the class, and the instructors sharing their experiences of things they've seen, things they carry. But I think a big majority is experience. Over the years, you see things, you hear about things, you read about things online. So knowing what to carry in your pack kind of comes from there. But as far as the snow science and all that, like learning the basics in an Abbey class and utilizing those skills, practicing digging pits, practicing with your partners, doing beacon searches. Um, I've also found it super helpful. They offer a lot of like free courses around town. So a lot of like ski shops or city council will have an avalanche awareness night or something like that. And even just getting in touch to the community with that, like not necessarily taking having to take these 3-day classes all the time, but getting any knowledge where you can when you can get it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Utilizing every resource you can, and taking as many classes as you can get into. It's sometimes hard for people to with their schedules, but I would not recommend anybody goes into the backcountry without taking at least your Abbey one, your Airy one, just to have the knowledge, and going out with the experienced crew. That will help a lot, in my opinion.
Awesome. Yeah, yeah, I've heard that from a lot of my friends and stuff. They preach, take your courses, of course, but make sure you're going out with people who know what they're doing, that want to, show you that time, and give you that more knowledge, and they know the area really, really, really well, and are up on conditions and all that kind of stuff, because every single little piece of information matters when you're going out into a gnarly situation, and where you could have a trigger or slide or anything like that. You need to be knowing what you're doing in case that does happen. So
Yeah,
yeah,
like I think learning your risk level too. That's something
yeah,
you're gonna learn once you start getting into the backcountry. You'll see some guys are a lot more risky and take bigger chances than you might want to, and that's
sure,
something you have to evaluate when you're picking a partner or speaking up. Sometimes if you're the inexperienced guy in the group, you might be a little hesitant to say something if you see something in the snow or you're not confident on a line. A lot of guys that are inexperienced will kind of keep that to themselves, and that's really not good. You're it's a relationship out there. It's like dating. You
yeah,
got to communicate. You got to express how you're feeling. I mean, I've had days where we started skinning for a few hours, and I just wasn't feeling it. Mentally, I wasn't feeling strong, and I was a little fatigued. And hey, guys, I'm not really feeling good today. Can we change our objective and go ski this? And you might bum some people out, but a good partner is going to say, "Yeah, no problem, man.
yeah,
We'll come back and get this another day." Like, having the being able to speak up is important. And if you're skiing with guys who are like, "Oh no, come on, man, we can go, we can go," that's not a good thing either, because then you're putting yourself at risk.
yeah. I can't remember where I just heard that, but basically, an experienced backcountry rider was basically like, if one person in the group isn't down, then you
And the
either
group,
change your objective or you just head right back out,
yeah.
because that could be the difference between saving somebody's life and not. And I don't know. Have you ever listened to Seth Hewitt's Bomb Hole?
I have not.
Okay, so
And add that to the list.
yeah, add it to the list, dude, because he tells just an incredible story of a day where it was bad. It got gnarly. Like Jeremy Jones broke both of his legs. Their whole group, it was kind of like a sketchy situation. They kind of were like going out to film, right? And the cat service that they were using was just super sketchy.
Ugh.
And yeah, they all kind of were like, oh man, maybe we shouldn't have done this today. And that's just like one of those situations where you're like, oh, it's like, if one little thing isn't right, then pull that cord and get out of there. You know what I mean? So, but a lot of people were like, "Oh no, we gotta get out there. It's gonna be nice, and we gotta get this filming done and whatever." But yeah,
Yeah,
it's
and normally, like when accidents do happen, there's a chain of events that lead up to
yeah,
it, right? Like it's typically not one decision; it's a few decisions that kind of snowball into a bigger one. Not always, but most of the time, from when you read, an Abbey incident or watch a video on something, there's a few decisions throughout the day that could have been handled differently. And that's a nice thing with my buddy from Minturn that I went up to Canada with. He's really educated, and he's starting to teach Abbey classes. So he was like the perfect guy to go up there with. And we would do like a kind of debrief at the end of every day, and we'd say, okay, like, did we get away with one there?
yeah,
Did we make all the right decisions? If we could go back, would you change anything we did in the day? And it really like makes you think about the decisions that you're making. And if you're saying, oh yeah, I would have done this differently, and I would have done this differently, and we shouldn't have done that, then you're like, you know what, like maybe we need to throttle back tomorrow, because we're obviously not making, we're being a little riskier than we should be. Or
yeah.
it's good to communicate that stuff at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's very cool. You just mentioned Minturn. A lot of people probably are like, Minturn, what's that? But that's literally one of my favorite towns I've ever passed through. Just such a cool vibe. at that town with all the restaurants and the shops like right there on the creek and the
Yeah.
walk and everything. Yeah, got to go there. Gosh, I was passing through there almost like maybe over 10 years ago, but I was just stumbled upon it because I was driving. We were going to go up through Leadville and
Yeah.
then down to Colorado Springs to visit my friend who lives down there in Colorado Springs. So yeah, that was really cool. And also, since I've been 7 years old, I've been a big time Denver Broncos fan ever since Elway was playing. So
Okay.
I love Colorado. I've been to Denver quite a few times, and
Cool.
stayed the night there, passed through there. Got to see the old Mile High Stadium when I was young, so that was always really cool. But
Nice.
yeah, Colorado is where it's at, dude. And a lot of people like they hate on Colorado, of course, like, oh, Colorado. But I'm like, I think Colorado shows up, for the snowboarding community and the ski
Yeah.
community all the time. And how can you not when you have so many awesome events and so many good resorts down there and some pretty sick
Definitely.
terrain. Yeah.
Yeah, and you have every sort of terrain here, which is kind of a cool thing. From like the small mom and pop hills to the big conglomerate resorts and the bougie mountain towns and the low key mountain towns, and you get everything out here in Colorado, which is
Yeah.
pretty rare. You also get a very unstable snowpack most years, which is
Yeah. It's steep. Yeah, the avalanche danger just on I-70 alone.
yeah,
It's
it can
crazy.
be spicy.
Yeah, dude. So we've been talking about winter, but your job, in the off seasons, which what funds like your trips and as much boarding as you get to do. What you work on some commercial ships. Let's talk about that. Like, what kind of stuff are you doing on those ships? And where are some places that you've been that you never thought you might have been able to get to?
Yeah, so I work on commercial. I work on heavy lift general cargo ship, and I'm the chief engineer on board. So typically, my schedule is 3 months on, 3 months off.
Okay.
Right now, I'm kind of trending towards working less, just to kind of cut back. I've been doing this since I was 21, and I'm 37 now, so 15, 16 years of working at sea. There were some tough years, during COVID where you were working a lot more than your 3 months just because of the craziness of the world. So I've tried to throttle back working a little bit. So like this year, I just did one 4-month trip. And it was great. It was great to have a little more time off to enjoy, living in Colorado and getting to do more summer activities than I'm used to because I'm typically at work in the summer. But yeah, so working out on the ship, I'm head of the engineering department essentially. So I'm managing all the engineers underneath me and working with the captain to make sure the deck department is squared away as well. But essentially in charge of anything mechanical on board, the big main engine, the auxiliary generators, motors, pumps, troubleshooting any problems, making sure we're in compliance with regulatory commissions, ordering spare parts, planning maintenance, completing the maintenance. I like to go down there and wrench with the boys. That's kind of my thing. A lot of guys in my position don't really pick up tools anymore. They're more just management, but I like to go down there and wrench with the guys, help them out. We have a really amazing team on board. Everybody's really hardworking. It's like my second family out there. I actually really enjoy my job. It's rare to say for a lot of people these days. And yeah, I mean, the ship's traveling all over the world. It's a tramp ship, so it doesn't have a set schedule. It's always going somewhere different.
Oh,
So
cool.
essentially, when I jump on that thing, I could be going anywhere in the world. I don't really know. Like right now, the ship's coming back from Antarctica. It goes down there every year to resupply some bases down there. And yeah, this job's cool. Again, you get to go to all these pretty crazy remote countries a lot of times, and it's a cool experience that a lot of people don't even realize how much of the world's trade is moved on ships. So getting to talk to people about it all the time, on share lifts or here in town, it kind of opens people's eyes up to how all their Amazon packages are really getting to them.
Very.
Guys, Let's Talk Snowboarding is presented by Mountain Vibez. And Mountain Vibez was started in February 2016 by our CEO and founder, Justin Desmond. With the input of close friends, Mountain Vibez officially went live November 1st of 2017, and Justin runs it with the help of Mountain Vibez co-owner Emily Sorger and our core team. When Justin created Mountain Vibez, his objective was not only to create a snowboarding company, but also a family where passion and the love of snowboarding outweighed years of experience and where judgment is not tolerated. We don't like the cool guys at Mountain Vibez. Everyone should be included in Mountain Vibez. Passion of snowboarding is what brings us all together and makes us a family. Along with creating a snowboarding family, Quality Snowboarding Apparel, we are a nonprofit with an outreach program called Good Vibes and High Fives, where we take less fortunate kids out to snowboard. And I want you to check out our website, mountainvibez.com with a Z, and see what we're all about. We have everything from the charity to the apparel, and we're stoked that Mountain Vibez has presented Let's Talk Snowboarding over these last, 2 years. So thank you to Mountain Vibez.
Yeah, so true. Yeah, it's just like you think it's just like a little click and it's there. Well, of course it's there the next day or the couple days after that, but the amount of work that goes into all that, whether it be the ships or trucking or just transporting goods, that's something that I hauled lumber in the Pacific Northwest for almost 6-7 years. So I'm a CDL Class A driver is what I did before my kids were born. Now I stay at home with them. So, but it's very cool. My wife's a nurse, so
cool.
she's got the awesome job in the heart surgery unit here. So we were like, oh well, we don't want to send our kids to daycare all the time, but a couple times a week is all right. But for a couple years there, it was just me and my daughter, and then my son was born, and so I just had them until we could get into that daycare, the employee daycare for the hospital employees. So yeah, doing transporting goods and doing all that stuff. Like, it's so funny. I'll drive around the area up here, and there'll be housing developments, and we'll drive past the house, like, oh, I built that house. And my wife's like, you built that house. You brought the lumber. And I was like, yeah, but that's part of it, isn't it? It's a good time. It's good to get your hands dirty and do a hard day's work. So those, dude, let's talk about like.
Oh, sorry. I'm not the guy that could sit in an office all day and do engineering calculations or ship design or anything like that. So working out on the ships was more my style. I think I would go crazy at a 9 to 5. So it's kind of nice when I'm at work. I fully immersed in it. It's 24 hours a day because you're on the ship, and at any hour something can break and you're up dealing with it. But that minute that I get off the ship, and I'm back home, I can really turn my brain off to work and fully focus on, enjoying myself, doing all the outdoor stuff. And so it's a really cool thing that I have going with the work.
Yeah, it's tough for me to sometimes sit down and edit for a few hours, edit the podcast and stuff, or edit some videos, and I'm just like, oh god, dude, I need to get outside and go do something. But dude, what's the situation like on the ships? Like, I've heard that, I don't know like what size ship you're on. I'm guessing it's one of those big dogs, going out there across the ocean. But I've heard that like the ships these days are kind of cool. Like, there's like cool areas for employees to hang out. Some, like, I've heard that there's like bars and grocery stores on the ships now and stuff. Like, what's it like on the big ship?
Yeah, so my ship's about 600 feet. Mine's actually a pretty relatively smaller merchant ship. We have typically about like 26 guys on board, so not as many as you would think.
Okay.
And things have changed a lot really in the last, like, I would say like 4 or 5 years with technology, meaning we have Starlink now. So in the past, when I started shipping out, when I was younger, or even like an apprentice, a cadet, it was way more common to have like a big movie room, and you would have thousands and thousands of DVDs, and you would have an officer's lounge and unlicensed lounge, and that's where guys would go and they'd watch movies, together in the lounge, and they'd play darts and they'd play cards, and it was a lot more social in that aspect. And ever since kind of the day and age of smartphones and especially Starlink, it's a little less social after hours. A lot of guys want to go to their room and just veg out and surf the web, or guys are able to FaceTime their families, which is a great thing. So it's not as social. A lot of guys do still play cards and that sort of thing, but I mean, I'll be honest, at the end of a 12-hour day, I want to work out and I want to watch an episode of something and I want to go to bed.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's hard for me to want to like socialize a lot after hours. It all really depends on the day. Sometimes you had a really hard day and we'll go out on deck and throw the football around, with the boys, just to kind of let off some steam or something like that if we don't have a lot of cargo on the main deck. Some guys go out and go get some sun at lunch, when the weather's nice, because if we're down in the engine room all day, you don't see the sun sometimes.
Yeah.
So getting out and enjoying some vitamin D is super important too.
Vital. Yeah.
Really.
Speaking of that, dude, we know that you're splitboarding, you're riding a lot in the winters when you're not on the ship, but what are some things that, what are some activities that you like to get into during the summer?
So I am a big mountain biker.
Nice.
Not as much downhill park at the resort. More, I love the climb. I like the suffer, and more kind of like an enduro style riding. Like I like the downhill, but I also like to earn it. I like that climb up. And just recently, this last year, I started doing a lot of trail running, which has been,
nice.
Yeah, and it was a scary thing for a while, but I will say once you get in shape, I experienced the runner high. I know what everybody's talking about now. When you get in shape, it's a cool thing just to be able to run up a mountain, be on a summit, and get back down. And, it takes you 3 hours, whereas if you were hiking, it would take you 8 or, a lot longer. So it's a cool new challenge that I got into this year. And being able to push myself in something new was a really, really special experience for sure.
Nice. Yeah. And how is it, you get back after, a stint on the ship and you come back to, we all know the Colorado is known for its elevation. How's that feeling? Like, are your lungs dying, or have you? Okay, gotcha.
I am. It's brutal, especially because I'll get back and all my buddies have been riding their bikes for a few months and they're like, super fit. And I jump on the bike, and after like the first little climb, I feel like my lungs are going to explode.
Right.
And they're over there having like a casual conversation, still climbing. And so it takes a few weeks to just kind of get your lungs used to the altitude for sure.
Dude, I remember I went down, when I went down to Colorado Springs for one of my best friend's weddings. His one of his bachelor day party activities was we're going to go climb the incline. Have you ever done the incline?
I have not, but it is no easy feat. I know that.
Yeah, so it starts out at 6,000 feet and goes, and it's over 2,000 vertical feet in about a mile, and it's just steps, railroad ties, all the way up, straight up. And I was like, well, it was back when I was in really good shape, back in like my mid to late 20s, and I held my own because him and one of my other good friends, Jacob, they were like crazy runners and like just in the best shape.
Yeah,
I was only like 2 minutes behind him. I was feeling pretty good. Yeah. I was like, oh my God, dude, this sucks. I was like, I cannot breathe. But yeah, the elevation's crazy, dude.
Yeah, you should be proud of yourself, then. That's a tough one. I mean, if you're trying to keep up with people that live down there too.
Yeah, definitely, man. Definitely. What about we know that Colorado's known for its fly fishing. You ever gotten out and swung some flies?
I try not to spread myself too thin with all the activities. I do not fly fish. Steamboat is world class for it, and a lot of my
Yeah,
friends do. I just really, I don't. It's never really perked up for me as something I want to divulge into. I feel like I need to be moving a little more than that.
sure. Yeah.
um, but I've been out a few times with my buddies. Like they've taught me how to kind of cast, and we actually went to a couple high alpine lakes, which can be pretty
That's always
easy
a good
to catch
time. Yeah.
fish. Yeah, and he probably caught 20 fish, and I got about 2 bites, and I think I was more excited than he was because to get your first bite on a fly was a cool thing. But no, I haven't really put much time into learning
Yeah.
learning
Yeah.
that at all.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like up here we have a lot of great rivers. And up here the hiking and the mountain biking scene is pretty solid up here in my area.
Yeah.
That's something that I would like to get into, but the bikes, they're so spendy. So I'm like maybe looking at maybe just renting one up at
Yeah.
Schweitzer at the resort and seeing how that goes. Go out with a buddy, but I just was like overall the hikes because there really weren't too many great ones here in this area, and so I'm like, what am I gonna do? Like what's fun up here? And so
Yeah.
I was like, I could try fly fishing, and 3 years later now I'm a fly fishing guide up
That's
here.
amazing.
So yeah, so
That's
yeah, it's like it's like a balance. Like in the winters I get my adrenaline with snowboarding, and then you still get that adrenaline rush when you catch like some solid fish up here, but it's more
Yeah.
just like a therapeutic zen, just like kind of almost like a meditation, almost being like out on the river and just hearing the sounds and getting into a rhythm, which has
Yeah.
been very, very cool, dude. Yeah.
cool.
Awesome.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. So, when are you actually heading back out? You said next week is when you ship out?
I'll leave like the first week of March,
Okay.
and I typically go back. So my folks still live in Georgia, so I'll go back and see them for about a week or two, and then I'll fly out to the ship from there. So I have a solid like 2.5 weeks left,
Nice.
with some good snow in the forecast. So it'll be a nice little send off for me.
Very cool. And what's happening with the house when you're gone? Are you renting it out, Airbnb in it, or is
I
it
just lock
sitting?
it up, and I typically, honestly, I have a lot of friends that pass through town and stay while I'm gone.
Okay.
And my neighbors are awesome. They're like family. Everybody kind of keeps an eye on your place for you, and yeah, so it stays empty. We can't do short term rentals here,
Okay.
so yeah, Airbnb's out, but yeah, it kind of just stays empty. But I do have friends that pass through that stay here.
That's nice, dude. I
Yeah.
get that. That just happened here. They just made it really tough in Coeur d'Alene. They
Oh,
changed a bunch of policies to kind of get out the Airbnb scene and bring it back to first time buyers and trying
yeah.
to get like actual families in the houses here and stuff. So
Let locals have somewhere to live. I think that's a problem in
yeah,
every mountain town right now.
it's tough, man. It's like we bought our house last October and we felt like we got a pretty good steal
Yeah,
on it in a great neighborhood with great neighbors and a
good.
really solid house. So, but now we just like look at the prices and it's just in 1 year it's gone. It just gets crazier and crazier every single
Every
year.
year, yeah.
Interest rates don't help either. So,
Yeah, especially since all that COVID in Russia. I mean, you guys get a lot of Californians up there, right?
oh yeah, we get tons of Californians, Oregonians,
Okay.
people coming from the west side, essentially.
Sure.
A lot of people coming from Seattle, getting out here. People come here for like, a trip. Like, this is a big passing through point to go into like Yellowstone and Glacier.
Sure.
And so people will like come to this town and then they'll be like, oh, no, I want to live there now and
Yeah.
all this stuff. So, with all the natural disasters and stuff that happen in those states, whether it be, down in the South in Florida with the hurricanes or even tornadoes in the Midwest to the wildfires in California, all that population is getting displaced. And, what are you going to do? You're going to go somewhere that you can still probably afford something okay. And be in a place that you feel a lot safer and maybe has a little bit different thought process and a more sense of a community. And that's definitely up here. So,
Yeah,
I
totally.
get it. I get why people. That's why we moved up here. Moved
Yeah.
here 7 years ago from the Portland area. I come from a really small town, and so I wanted to be somewhere that was smaller, that had a good community vibe, and that was this. And yeah, the rest is history. I don't think we're going to be going anywhere anytime soon. We like it.
Yeah.
Guys, I want to talk to you about a new sponsor that we have. So, big shout out to our friends at Fine Brewed Cafe in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Whether you're gearing up for a powder day or winding down after a long ride, Fine Brewed has you covered with craft coffee, legendary mimosas, and a killer vibe. They're all about fueling adventures, connecting the community, and keeping you caffeinated for whatever the mountain throws your way. So next time you're in town in Coeur d'Alene, stop by Fine Brewed on Sherman Avenue, grab a cup, and keep chasing that stoke.
Yeah.
I'm actually considering a move up north. I've had a calling the last few years to get into some bigger mountains, and
Yeah.
yeah, I've been kind of looking at Victor Driggs, Idaho. That's been on my radar. More smaller town and bigger mountains is kind of my MO. And see
Well, I know. Yeah. I know that area down there. Well, there's just great backcountry all over
Yeah.
Montana and Idaho, which it's not like the word isn't quite out yet. People usually talk about Whistler and BC and stuff. So it's definitely, it would be a good move, dude. I feel like, usually when you come from a place like where you're at in Colorado, you probably get a pretty good solid, if you decide to sell your house, you get a good amount of money. And then you come to Idaho, it's always going to be cheaper than like Colorado or any of those places. So
yeah, I mean that's kind of where I'm trending to. Is like I'd really like a house, with a couple car garage, and to get that up here is
not
many millions of dollars.
Yeah. That's why I think that's why so many Californians have moved here, because they can sell their house in California for over $1 million, sometimes for not much. And then they come up here and they get like a dream house for less than $500,000, in some areas up here. So, and then they have that nest egg, and then you go out, you get the toys and have fun out in the wilderness and the great outdoors. So yeah, it's awesome. There's a lot of space to build up here in the Spokane, Coeur d'Alene area too. So that's another appeal. It's like there's just tons of neighborhoods getting put in.
Yeah.
And so people can afford those like cookie cutter homes, and that's where they start. Just build their life up here. Yeah. That's pretty cool, dude. I like to see the area do well in the economy and everything.
Absolutely.
But you can always complain about the traffic and the overcrowding. But coming from Portland, I was there for 10 years, and I worked at Mount Hood up at Timberline, and it was just getting out of hand, and it was just like, okay, gotta get out of here. So yeah. As long as you take back roads up here, you're good.
Yeah, for sure. And it's something I think every town is experiencing, is influx of people. And, I think, too, it's just kind of my goals are changing a little bit in life and in my, outdoor activities. I like to be more away from people. And the resort itself is not as important as it used to be when I first moved here. Snowmobiles are kind of the new ticket. So to be in some bigger mountains, push my skill set a little bit, and that's something I think is definitely on my radar.
Yeah, and you and I are the same age. I'm 37, so I'm kind of in that same boat. Like, I would love to just go take a walk. Like, ideally get a snowmobile one day, but and splitboarding is I like getting out and hearing the silence and just getting away from the crowd. So if you do make your way up here again sometime, we'll have to get out there, dude. I'm gonna get all my knowledge, my classes done, and get all my gear here hopefully in the next few years. And that's
definitely.
Cool.
Yeah, I'll be up that way for sure this next winter. So I'm definitely gonna be back to BC, and I'll be passing through. I'll get you hooked on the sled. That's no problem. I can promise that.
That'd be a fun time. Nice, dude. Well,
Hot Takes is sponsored by Ski Shack. Ski Shack has been local, family owned and operated since 1976. Go in there today and get yourself dialed, whether it's on a board or skis. Ski Shack has what you need. And visit them at 9437 North Government Way in Hayden, Idaho, and get yourself dialed out.
Right. Okay. 3 favorite riders of all time.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I mean, I think old Jeremy Jones is probably going to be one of my biggest inspirations.
The Big Mountain Jeremy Jones.
Yeah, Big Mountain Jer Bear, man. That guy is just watching his videos is always something really, that speaks to me and a really cool thing. Man, this is hard. There have been so many guys that have been like super influential. Xavier Delarue
Okay.
is another guy that's just out there getting after it, doing some pretty cool things.
Big Mountain Free Rider champion. I mean, yeah, he's
and I might have to pivot a little bit and say, can it be a skier? Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, I mean, old Shane McConkey is.
Okay.
He's just a legend and just such a cool guy that really pushed the limits of free ride skiing and the culture, and just had fun with it and had such a good attitude and was a really cool guy that I think inspired so many. So I would definitely have to say Shane.
Nice, dude. I like it. Yeah, and when you spoke on Jeremy, like, can't deny the fact of how much he does for our winters and for the culture within snowboarding from protect our winters. Yeah, and I don't know too much about McConkey, but I'm sure he's sick. But yeah, and then Xavier, dude, he's just the crazy free rider champion. It's insane watching him go down some of those competition phases.
If you have the chance, watch McConkey, the documentary. It's
okay.
Yeah, it's something you should watch. I'll leave it at that, and then I think it'll open your eyes to why I think he's a big inspiration.
I always appreciate some big time skiing, dude. I love seeing skiers get after it. So
yeah,
that's awesome. So for you, Justin, what does a perfect day of riding look like? Where would you be, and how would it be going?
A perfect day for me would be a really nice long bluebird day in the backcountry, obviously with some nice fresh snow, and just being out on a long tour with good friends, small group, and super stable snow so that there's no worries in that aspect.
Yeah.
We call it hero snow. Just any day out in the backcountry on hero snow, even whether it's snowmobiling or ski touring, to me is the perfect day where you kind of can almost do no wrong, and the vibes are high and nobody's feet are cold. And
yeah, very good. I like it. So we talked about your split board setup. Do you have a solid board that you ride ever?
Yeah, I have a few.
Okay. What's like your go-to solid board? Like let's talk a little bit about like the stance, what brand it is and the size, and if you're tuning it up or anything like that.
Yeah, I ride a Mind Expander, a Jones Mind Expander. That's kind of like my POW board, and it is. I mean, that thing's fantastic in the deep snow, and then any sort of chop, it kind of just plows through everything. It's got a huge big nose on it, and a really kind of set back stance, so your back foot's not getting really tired on those big POW days.
Yeah.
That's my pretty go-to if it's been snowing. That's
nice.
Just a super fun board, really easy to turn, just floats on top of everything. That's been my main squeeze lately.
What bindings you got on it?
I'm riding some Union Falcors.
Nice.
A little
And
older, but they've been doing the trick. I'm a big fan of the union bindings.
are we? What stance? What stance were the angles like?
I ride I'm goofy. I ride like -5 in the back and about 15 in the front.
Okay, nice, good, solid setup.
Yeah.
And I know you on your split setup you got hard boots now, but you got some soft boots for resort days or?
Yes, I do, and I honestly I have Vans, and I honestly forgot the model
That's all good. If you just
that I
say
have.
Vans,
I do
Vans
have
are
Vans, yeah.
nice. And are they laces or boa? Or are they a combo?
They are everything. Yeah, they have
Okay.
laces and boa.
Side boa.
Yeah, and they have like a nice long Velcro strap right at the top, which gives you
The
that like
boost,
kind of
yeah.
extra support, which I really like. And yeah, they're like slippers. Those Vans are sweet. It's actually my first pair of Vans.
Oh, very cool.
I've kind of been
Yeah,
all over in my boot life. I'm not super.
sure.
Yeah, I've kind of just tried a lot of different things, and this year was the Van Day, or Van Year, sorry. And yeah, I like them a lot.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna be forced to switch to Vans. I was a big Adidas guy for a long
Okay.
time, and I'm on my last pair of Sambas, and they're
Yeah.
still holding up great. They're not anywhere near to being blown out or being done, but they're not making boots anymore. So either I would have to go to like a somebody who has a whole stock of them and pay probably more of an arm and a leg for them, but
Yeah.
maybe get some on ice. But I think I'm gonna try out the Vans here soon.
Give,
And if
give them a shot. I think you'll like them.
yeah, my boy Josh, who is actually our producer for the in-person interviews for the podcast, he's sworn by Vans for many years, and he always tells me like, "Dude, just try them, and I bet you'll get hooked." So, yeah, now two people have been like, "Hey, make the switch, man, make the switch."
Yeah, you should.
What's been your greatest experience in the backcountry?
You know, it's crazy. It was a recent experience up there in Canada, and we went and skied this pretty big line, aesthetic line called Swiss Couloir. And unfortunately, like the day before, we tried to ski the line. We got about halfway up the couloir, super hard boot packing, and this like freezing fog rolled in, and visibility went to zero. And it was kind of a little bit of a nervous ski out because we had to kind of get below these clouds, and we were skiing on our skin track to get out because you just couldn't see.
Yeah,
And we were out there for I don't know 8 hours or so. We did about a little over 6,000 vert of climbing, and we get back to the car and we look at each other and we're like, we got to go get it tomorrow. So we woke back up and got back up there the next day, and we caught it in bluebird conditions. We get to the top of this couloir, and it is just the most beautiful scenery imaginable up there in British Columbia. It was just aesthetically beautiful. We felt super strong on the up, and it was one of those moments where, like, it's special, and I was able to share that with my partner, and we're just kind of looking at each other in disbelief. And then we got to ski this huge couloir down. We get to the bottom of the glacier, and we just look at each other, and we just had to stare at this line for I don't know 20 minutes or so, and just kind of taking it all in, what it took to get up there and how special that was. And I mean, that was one of my greatest accomplishments so far in my splitboard backcountry career, and just getting the conditions right. And we ran into some other groups out there that were saying, for us to get those conditions is almost unheard of. It was just very lucky, and what a special moment that was for us. And that was the theme when we went around Revelstoke and kind of told people where we skied, and they're like, wow, you got that line today and that in those conditions. Like, I know people that have lived here that have been trying to ski that for years and can't get it right. And so that was really a special
nice.
moment I shared with my partner. And, back at the truck, there was some nice big man hugs, and the stoke was so high. I felt like we were floating home on the drive. It was really cool.
That's great, dude. Okay, so bucket list backcountry trip where you haven't been yet. Where would that be, and who would be 3 people that you would take with you And it can be anything you want. You could be a split. If you're split boarding, that's cool. But also, there's always cat or heli.
Okay.
What's on your bucket list?
Probably Chamonix.
Okay.
And yeah, I want to go ski some crazy couloirs with a wild French guide that smokes cigarettes all day and
Nice.
is like super gnarly. And I want that whole experience. Learning some rope skills, rappelling into some couloirs and stuff like that. That's on my radar. And as far as people I would take, man, that's tough. I have a really good friend in Vail that I would probably take, my buddy Bennett. Probably my buddy Sammy that I went up to BC with. I would want that guy there with me.
Nice.
Those are like the two people that speak to me right off the bat.
And your cigarette smoking French guide.
Yeah, I need our French guy, dude, because I don't know why I just picture this guy just ripping buds and just.
I wonder if Victor smokes cigarettes. I've never seen it, but I know that he's French, so.
Yeah, I feel like. I don't know why I have that image in my head, but it's always just been like this guy just setting up the rappel or something, just ripping buds.
I just see Arthur Longo, dude. That's who I see because I know that guy just rips darts all day long, and he's like one of the sickest snowboarders of all time. So
yeah, ripping serious.
Dude, what? Okay, so this is kind of a funny question, but what's your least favorite trend currently in snowboarding? Like something that you may see at the resort or in the backcountry, wherever it may be. What's something that just is like, oh, come on, we don't need that in here.
I think just a lot of the aggro-ness and people thinking that they're too cool or better than others. Just be nice. I don't know. You see a lot of like altercations and lift lines and people being really rude and like. Again, that's why I spend a lot of my time in the backcountry. You don't have to deal with that, but there are days where you go to the resort and you see like two people just almost coming to blows over something silly.
Mm-hmm.
I think people just take a step back and be nice and realize that we're sliding down hills with sticks on our feet for fun, and life's not, life's good. Yeah, and it's hard to watch people getting, even getting physical on the hill with each other and being really rude, and there are kids around and stuff like that. There's no place for that. So that's something, I don't like to see.
For sure, man. Okay, we're gonna run some quick hitters before we close this thing out. Okay, yeah. Pants or bibs?
Bibs for sure.
Goggles or glasses?
We talking downhill?
Yeah.
Goggles for sure.
Okay, are you rocking those over or under the helmet?
Under.
Okay, I like that answer, dude. Gloves or mittens?
Mittens snowboarding. Gloves on the snowmobile.
Okay, we already got into this, and you have a combination of both. But I was going to ask you bow or laces, but we know what your boot setup is, so
yes,
nice. POW or slush?
POW for sure.
Sweet. Are you rocking earbuds when you're?
I do not. I don't do music when I ride.
Okay, gotcha. And if you have one favorite video part, or if you don't have a video part that's like your favorite, what's like, you're saying get into the mood and watch YouTube in the mornings, like what's some content that you've been really liking lately?
Honestly, like I would say video part, I think the Art of Flight, because that soundtrack is just so cool.
Yeah.
It's hard not to get amped watching that.
It's a lot of people's favorite.
A lot of times I'll just watch any sort of YouTube on something on a zone I might be going to, whether it's like, like Cody Townsend's 50 Project. I watch a lot of his stuff, and that just gets me hyped.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed that project he's been doing. Now he's doing 50 plus, so I always look forward to when a new episode comes out. And he's such a cool homie. That guy's awesome.
He does a great job too, like because you feel like he's being kind of real with you on his experiences. He's not trying to just be cool and look like he's perfect. He kind of admits when things aren't going right or turn around. So it's a cool. I think he does a great job.
And he also admits all the time, he's like, I'm not the most experienced guy. I'm not trying to say that I am, but you know what? Like, I'll go out with people that I I trust and who have more experience than me, and I'm humbled and I get to learn from those people. So that's what's yeah, he's a humble dude. He's an awesome guy.
Yeah,
Now he's a
absolutely.
dad too, so which is pretty cool to see.
Yeah,
So yeah, for
that's
sure.
precious.
Nice, dude. So dude, just tell us a little bit about like what's coming up next for you. I know that you're getting back on the ship, but as far as like what plans you may have, like some things that you want coming up, you know, either this coming summer or next winter.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm kind of just wrapping up my time here at home. So looking to kind of keep it local before I go back to work. Um, I'll be back mid June. So once I get back, just a lot of mountain biking, trail running. Definitely going to get up into the Tetons. That's on my list this summer, just to kind of catch the feel for Idaho a little bit. So I might come up to
Nice.
see you. You never know.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, next winter for sure. You know, it's very dependent on the snow for me. If it's not snowing somewhere, it's hard to plan my trip out there. But definitely would like to get up to British Columbia, uh, Idaho, Wyoming. Even sticking around here and enjoying the good snow when it comes. So
Yeah. Chase the snow wherever it's good, right?
absolutely.
Heck yeah, dude. All right. Well, cool. So thank you so much, Justin, for your time. Thanks for joining the podcast. And look forward to talking with you here again soon. And hope you have a good, trip out into the seas. And then, yeah, looking forward to hopefully getting to meet you one day if you're going to be rolling up through Idaho. So thanks again. And with that, that's been another episode of Let's Talk Snowboarding. We are stoked that Justin was able to join us, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. Later.